So we're on the bottom of Chav Beis Amud Beis. And the subject is, how do you know that the son from a non-Jewish wife, either a Shifcha or a Goya, but the Gemara says the whole time, I keep on saying Goya, not just because that's a censorship, but someone had relations with a Shifcha Kananis, a maidservant that's not fully Jewish. It's not just a worker maid. That's a regular goy, but it means that she was tova l'shem shifcha. There's a level, that's something between a Jew and a goy that's called a eved, or right, like we say in the morning, shlosh ani goy, shlosh ani eved. That's if someone had relations with everyone agrees to the fact of it. The question we learn out from: how do you know that if someone had relations with a goy, the child that's born is going to be a goy? It's not related to him at all. That's what the Mishnah said, that a brother that was born from a non-Jewish woman, so it's not called the brother, and a son that's born from a non-Jewish woman is not called the son. So we're looking for the drasha for that. So far the Gemara brought down Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda. The Gemara started with a subject about the issue that it says about a sister to have relations with a sister. So there's an extra pasuk over there, and that was Friday's Gemara. And the Gemara now says, according to Rabbi Yehuda, there's an extra pasuk based on the drashas before. That was not our subject. Now we just wanted to get to this point that there's the extra pasuk by Seishes Avicha. It says, don't. How does the pasuk go? Where is the pasuk? Just to highlight it. Ervas. Here it is. That's highlighted over here. Ervas. I didn't mean that.
Ervas bas Seishes Avicha.
Right. Where's that? Ervas. Again. Why is it giving me the whole thing? Okay. I'm not sure. What should I do here? I don't know. On this page, yeah, Ervas. So that's why I underlined it. Ervas, Bas Eisha Savicha Madlar Savicha Achos Chahi. So this pasuk, Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda has an extra. So that's what the Gemara is going to dash. And Ervas Bas Eisha Savicha. So that's what the Gemara wants to say. This word Bas Eisha Savicha, what is it? What is it used for? Mi boy le mi sheish lo ishus lavicha ba. Fat lachosa mi shifcha ve'ezikachovim goya she'ena ishus lavicha ba. The pasuk saying that is only considered your sister if it's a Bas Eisha Savicha. It's talking about a sister from a common father, but only if it's from is that what I'm saying? Only if it's from a woman that your father could have had a marriage to. But if it's a woman who your father could not have had a marriage to, like a Shifcha or a Goya, so then it's not considered your sister. The Gemara is going to, the last time on Friday, Dr. Fine said, so then maybe a Chayvi Krisis also, your father can't have a marriage to her, even if it's a Jewish woman, but it's Chayvi Krisis, like any kind of the Chayvi Krisis, there are many Chayvi Krisis, and we're talking about it the whole time, the 15 in the beginning of the Masechta, maybe also that's included. That's going to be the Gemara's kasha. I didn't realize it on Friday. That's going to be one of the Gemara's questions. But that's the Gemara's drush, and this drush is going to hold the point of Rabbi Yehuda, that this is the source to say that the son born of a shivcha or a goya is not considered a sister, a son, a daughter, because here the pasuk is talking about a sister. It's only considered a sister if the father would have had relations with somebody who's at least Jewish. But if it has no ishus, there's no marriage taking place. The marriage doesn't take effect, so then she's excluded. And there are kashas to ask. The more is going to ask a few kashas now. Maybe any woman that didn't have marriage, maybe how can we be taking it so far that she's non-Jewish? Maybe it means even if she's a Jewish woman, but he didn't marry her. Maybe it has to be Eisha Savicha, somebody that your father married, but he didn't marry her. Maybe it's not considered a sister, and that's not true. The truth is that it's considered a sister, even if the father would have raped somebody. The sister is a sister, they have a common father. Only we're saying here that if it's a Goya or a Shifcha, then it's not a sister. But if you just say the pasuk Eisha Savicha, so okay, Eisha Savicha, it has to be your wife's father. Maybe if he raped her, then it's not going to be considered a sister. The Gemara says, no, you can't say that. But you can't think that if the sister from a raping that the father did, that's not considered a sister. The Gemara is going to prove that it is. The Rava Ksiv, the pasuk says you should not have relations with a granddaughter, Bas Bincha, right? The daughter of your son or the daughter of your daughter. Good. Pasuk says it doesn't have relations with a granddaughter, your granddaughter. But the implication is that if it would have been the woman's granddaughter, it would have been mutter. It's only us, Bas Bincha, your granddaughter. But if it would have been the woman's granddaughter, then it wouldn't have been us. But there is a pasuk that says that a wife's granddaughters are also us. It's us to marry your wife's granddaughter, even if they're not your granddaughter. If a person marries a woman and she has granddaughters, it's us to have relations with them. So this pasuk, that's a contradiction. The more asking on the drash level, is asking a contradiction. One pasuk says only your granddaughter, The other pasuk says even your wife's granddaughter. The first pasuk is mashma that if it's not your granddaughter, it's mutter, even though it's the woman's granddaughters. How does it go? The pasuk says Erbas bas mincha bas mincha lo segale. But the diuk is habas bena dida ubas dida dida. But if it will be her granddaughter, the woman's shavi, then it's mutter. But the pasuk says openly Erbas isho vita lo segale as bas bena as bas vita. It says that it's also to have relations with the woman's granddaughters. Okay.
Was it that Dida actually?
Which word?
Dida.
Dida is hers. Dida shalom. Okay, Tzad, how can you reconcile the psukim? Kan be'onsin, kan be'nesuin. If somebody marries a woman, so then it's also to have relations with her granddaughters, even though they're not his granddaughters. He married a woman and she had it from another husband. She had granddaughters. It's also because it's a wife. But if he would have raped a woman, then it's only also the granddaughters that are going to be born to him from that woman. But if she happened to have granddaughters, it's not us. It's not us for him to have relations with the granddaughters because right. So so those granddaughters of a woman that he raped are not us. So you see that they are considered sisters. They are considered daughters. So they're considered sisters. That takes away from this question. You can't say that a person who had a sister from a raping means that his father raped a woman, that you can't say that's not considered a sister. It is considered a sister the same way, because over there the pasuk says that again the raped woman, it says that it's not us to have relations with her granddaughters, but his granddaughters from that woman is us. So you see that even though it was from a rape, it wasn't from a marriage, also it's us for him to have relations with them. So that goes without saying that Nusa wouldn't make that they're not considered his daughters, they are considered his daughters, so therefore we're just going to exclude a Goya. But the Gemara takes it step by step. There are going to be a few choices just to highlight the pink over here. One kasha is going to be maybe it's not Nusa, she's not married. Then the Gemara is going to try Chayv Lavin, that it's not the father wasn't allowed to marry her because the Torah says don't marry. Then the third one is going to be a Chayv Krisus, that the Torah says don't marry, and even if you do, it doesn't take effect. That's going to be the three questions the Gemara asks. The Gemara is going to answer all the questions, and therefore it's going to come out that the only thing we're going to exclude is if it's from a non-Jewish woman. It means this drasha is going to be a good drasha. That the pasuk says Eshet bas Eshet Avicha, it has to be a daughter of the wife of your father. It's an extra pasuk over there, and it's coming to say it's only considered a daughter of your father if it was Eshes Avicha. But that doesn't mean literally has to be married. Like Peter said, even if it's Anusa also, if her father had a child from a raping, it is considered his daughter. True? And now the Gemara is going to say, maybe it's coming to exclude Chayv Lavin, the aim Prat L'Chayv Lavin, maybe the pasuk is coming to exclude that it's only a woman who's mutter to your father. But if it was Asa, even if it wasn't a terrible Avera, but it was a lav, it was a low sase, maybe also it's going to be excluded because it's not considered his daughter because it was Asa to marry her. No, that's also not true. Amir Papa Chayv Lavin Tafsebu Kedushin, that if it's an Avera to marry her, but it was not Chayv Krisus, the Kedushin does take effect. He wasn't allowed to do it. Let's say we had an example, a Grusha L'Kohen Hediot, a Grusha L'Kohen, it's a low sase. A mamzer, it's a lo sase, but it's not chayv krisus. Does it take kedushin if a person married them? Does it take effect? Yes. Tichsiv. How do you know? There's going to be a drush to say that also. Over there, it's talking about the nachla. That if a person when he's bequeathing, when he gives the morish his nechasim, so it says if a person has two wives, one he loves and one he doesn't, and bein abachor lasniya, and the first one is to the one that he doesn't like as much, so he can't favor the then ahuva and give him more than the other one. They get equal, and the bechor is supposed to get double even if he's not the son of the beloved. Anyway, it says that it's a man that has two wives. One is ahuva, one is hanua. And the Gemara says this pasha that is not talking. There's no havamina, so to speak, that the bechor. This is a drash, and the pasha is a very simple pasuk. That even though he likes one wife better, he can't take away the bechora from the other one. But the Gemara doesn't, in the drash level, the Gemara is saying that, of course, it's not a havamina. Just because he likes her better is the reason why take away the bechora. So it's coming to tell you a drash. What's ahuba snua? That Hashem likes this one and doesn't like that one. Why should Hashem not like her? Hashem likes one better than the other. It means that she's beloved as far as the marriage. It was a kosher marriage. There's a kosher marriage and a non-kosher marriage. One that Hashem said he could have married her. The other one said Hashem says he should not have married her. And it still says that it's kitiyena. That she's not, the marriage is not authorized by Hashem. Then you might think that he doesn't get a bechor. The Gemara is coming to say, the pasuk is coming to the drush level, the pasuk is coming to say that even though she wasn't allowed to marry her, but if he did, and she had her firstborn, the bechor, the nachla goes, the pishnaim goes to the bechor, even if he wasn't allowed to marry her. But anyway, what do you see? The pasuk says kisiyena. So that means that he becomes to her, that they do marry. Even if it was a chayv lavin, the kedushin does take effect. So the Gemara says you can't say the person says Eishes Avicha is coming to exclude if the father wasn't allowed to marry her, because even if he wasn't allowed to, but the kedushin does take effect. So a sister from Chayvei Lavin is also considered a sister. So therefore it excludes the Goya or the Shifcha. We're good with that. But the Gemara has one more kasha that has to be answered. The aim of Prat Chayvei Krisos, which was Dr. Fein's kasha on Friday, that a Chayvei Krisos is not Tofis Kedushin. And if it's not Tofis Kedushin, so then maybe the child born, the pasuk is saying that the child born is not considered a sister. If someone has a sister from Chayvei Krisos, maybe it's not considered a sister. And the truth is that it is. From the pasuk, how do you see that? Last time we brought down this pasuk, that was yesterday also. I mean, go back to the pasuk over there that we highlighted. Did we highlight it? A second ago, here it is. But the first pasuk, not that pasuk, but the first pasuk. This is it doesn't say the whole pasuk over here. Where is it? This thing over here. Whatever.
You could be a softer.
Then the pasuk is it says that you're not allowed to have relations with a sister who's a daughter of your father or a daughter of your mother, either one, right? Either one's considered a sister. And then the pasuk continues, which the pasuk shot is that if she's a daughter of your mother, either if she's married from your father or not. That's the pasuk shot. But the Gemara is saying it Rash over here. What does it mean? Let us buy small, let us chutz. No difference if they tell your father you can keep her. Let us buy would mean you can keep her. It's a father can keep her. It's a good kosher marriage. Or that they tell the father send her away. It's still considered and it's still considered a sister. So here the pasuk says that even a marriage that the father should not have done, we said before Chayvei Lavin surely is considered a marriage, takes effect. Here it says that even if it's the kind of marriage that they say you have to send her away, and it's not a good marriage, it's still considered a sister. So now we really have a contradiction. We have two psukim. One pasuk says by Achos Eishes Avi Ervas Eishes Avi. How does it go? The other pasuk? I forgot the pasuk here on the bottom. The one that says Bas Eishes Avicha. That's the one with Dashi hold on. Bas Eishes Avicha. Bas Eishes Avicha. And that says over there, we said that it means the Afkar has to be somebody that your father was mutter to marry. On the other hand, we're saying now that this pasuk that says Moledet Chutz, that means that even if your father has to send her away, still is considered a sister. So there's a contradiction. So here the Gemara says that this pasuk says Lerabos Achosa Meshivcha. I skipped. Here it is. Over here. Here the Gemara said that even if he has to send her away, it means that it's not Tofis Kedushin, still is considered your sister. Chayvei Krisos is considered your sister. But the Gemara says no. Maybe the pasuk is coming to say that even if it's not, the Kedushin doesn't take effect, like from a Goya, means we're holding by this drasha. We want to know. We said that Chayvei Lavin and Chayvei Krisos, it stays. It's a good. The sister is considered a sister. Even if the father had relations with somebody that's considered a Chayvei Krisos, the daughter is still going to be considered his daughter, and it's your sister. But the pasuk on the other hand says that sometimes not. It has to be somebody that your father's mutter to marry. So the Gemara is saying that's talking about a goya. That's how the Gemara comes out, and Maskana is going to be that the pasuk that says that only if your father could marry her, that's coming to say that if a goya not, a goya, a shivcha, so then the child is not considered a daughter, it's not considered a sister. But the case that's Chayvei Krisos, then it is going to be considered your sister, even though you shouldn't have married, doesn't take effect, but still the sister is still a sister. And the Gemara is going to juggle which one. How do you know which one it's referring to? Maybe say that the pasuk that says that even if it's not Tofis Kedushin, still it's considered a sister. Maybe it's talking about from a goy or a shivcha. No, that's not a pasuk. The pasuk that says that it has to be Tofis Kedushin, but if it doesn't have Kedushin, so then it's not considered your sister. That's going on the goya. But the one says, Omar Royce, how do you know which one? You have two choices, either a goya. We'll talk about a goya and a shivcha in one breath, without repeating each time. Is it talking about a goya, or is it talking about a Chayvei Krisos? How do you know which one? That if you have the choice of the two, means one pasuk says yes, one pasuk says no. We have to decide which one is which. So it's more reasonable to say that the Chayvei Krisos is considered a sister or a daughter because at least there's tefisas kedushin. Kedushin takes place, but by a goya and a shivcha, there is no kedushin. If somebody has relations with a goya, gives a kedushin, nothing happens. So therefore, it's more mistaber to say that when the Torah says, well, one of these two, that the kedushin, that the sister is considered a sister, the daughter is considered a daughter, that's by the chai b'krisus. But the goya that has no tefisas kedushin over there is further away, and it's not considered a daughter and a sister. The Gemara says it's out the other way. We're asking, right? We're not arguing, he's asking. On the contrary, say that I'll tell you as far that a chayvei krisus is further away than a goy and a shivcha, because a goy and a shivcha, it's true that right now there's no tefisas kedushin, but they could be megaya. They could convert, and then there'd be tefisas kedushin even to this person. The chayvei krisus is true; it has tefisas kedushin, but I'm sorry, Chayvei Krisus does not have Tefisas Kedushin, but it has Tefisas Kedushin Alma, means somebody else. She's a Jewish woman, and to the right person, she could marry. Just to you, there's a relationship, there's an error, but therefore no Tefisas Kedushin. But there is Tefisas Kedushin Alma. But the one is asking, maybe a Goya is better, a Goya, and a Shivcha is more reason that it should be considered that your sister or your daughter, because she could become a Goya. She has the potential, at least even a Goya, and be mutter even to you. Is a clear to tzadim. On one hand,
if she does a tikkun,
if she does a gior, so then she can marry you also. It is tefisas kedushin even to you. The chayvei krisus, even though she's Jewish and she has tefisas kedushin to everybody else, but to you, she has no tefisas kedushin and ever. No way to get it. No way to ever be. So the Gemara is asking on both sides. Yeah, it's out one way, that's out the other way. The Gemara says no. That's not called that it's the same person that became mutter. That's called a different person. When someone becomes a convert, so then they consider a new person. So it's no way that this person could become mutter. This person could become another person, but not that this person could become mutter. So the Gemara is happy with this drasha. We finished this drasha so far. All the page so far in yesterday's page was to bring this raya that how do you know that the daughter born from the son or the daughter born from a goya from a shikha is not considered your child. And the pasuk is coming to say that it has to be somebody that your father has tefisas kedushin. And the Gemara just proved now the last kasha we had was maybe it's coming lafuke from a chayvei krisus, and that the Gemara says no, because there's another pasuk that says that there is considered a daughter and a sister even if it's not tofis kedushin, and then we have to figure out on ourselves to juggle which one is more mustaber, the chayvei krisus or the goya. The Gemara says at the end that the chayvei krisus at least has tefisas kedushin for somebody else. But even though not for you, but the goy does not tefisas kedushin to anybody. And even though if she's megaya, she'll have tefisas kedushin even to you. But that's a different person. That's not her. So the Gemara is happy with this drasha. We found the drasha according to Rabbi Yehuda that the words bas seishes avicha is extra, and from there you learn out that there's no marriage, and the daughter which is born, a son or a daughter is born from such a union to a goy. Like we know that the child born of a goy is a goy. That drasha was good. But all this was only going to Rabbi Yehuda on yesterday's page, because he's the one who had an extra pasuk. But the Rabbanan, they didn't. They used that pasuk to say that if someone has relations with a sister who also happens to be the daughter of his father's wife, is over two averis. That's how the whole Gemara started. Someone had relations with a sister, a regular full sister. That's his father's daughter, and also it's his father's wife's daughter, which is a regular family scenario. And the Rabbanan says it's going to be over two averis. If he had such relations, he could have two chatas, because he married he had relations with his sister and with his father's wife's daughter. So according to them, the pasuk is not extra. According to Rabbi Yehuda, is only chayv one, and this pasuk was extra, so we used it for this drasha that the child born of a goya is a nothing. But according to Rabbanan, it's not extra pasuk. So how do you know this famous halacha that the child born of a goya and a shivcha is not your child? Where are you going to learn out from? It's a new drasha. This part we had already yesterday, and that was about a shivcha part. That a shivcha, it says that Eved Ibri, he has his master gives him a shivcha kananis to have children, and then when it comes time for him to go free, he goes free. But the woman and the children remain with the master. That means that it's not his children. It's considered a avodim and shvachas, nothing to do with him. So that's the source to say that the children born of a shivcha is not his children. But the basically says, I'm asking to that, but how do you know a goya? Now we're coming to vibe between a shivcha and a goya. A shivcha, you're right, but how do you know about a goya? You have Yosef Yehuda, chad b'shivcha, v'chad b'goya, v'sricha. It's not enough. You can't have one from the other. Just because the children of a shivcha are not considered yours, it doesn't necessarily mean that the children of a goya are not. Yes, mean on shivcha mishum de'en l'chayis, aval abedes kachav, this l'chayis, same alo. A shivcha, there's no relationship between the parents and the children. Ein l'chayis, and that Rashi brings down the drasha that we say over there. Where's the drasha? Like am lachamor, shvulchan pol machamor, im machamor, amad ima dom lachamor. That over there it's considered that there's no there's no relationship between the parents and the children. The same way by animals, there's no relationship between the parents and the children. But by a goy, there is. Rashi brings a psukim that it says, Baladan ben Baladan, Hadrimo ben Tavrimo. It's talking about goyim, and it does talk about their parents. By Avadim, it wouldn't talk about their parents. The parents happens to be is biological, but we don't look about it. We don't look at the biology. They're not considered related. But by goyim, the parents and the children of goyim are considered related. So if so, that just because you know by a shifcha, if someone has relations with a shifcha Canaanis that the children are not his and they're not considered Jewish, you don't know that the children born of a goy, maybe by a goy, there's more yichus. The yichus is more by a goy than by a shifcha. That's a kasha on the Rabbanan.
Yishmael is considered. I think we're talking about Hamagai with Shmuel. Is Yishmael and who else was there?
They say Eliezer.
Eliezer, right? So Yishmael. It was really the
from Hagar. Okay, also, yeah. Eliezer also. He was Eved Kanani. Eliezer was Eved Kanani.
So
we're talking about this. Utzricha. So basically, it says that you have to have one pasuk for a shifcha, one pasuk for a goya, because a shifcha doesn't have any yichos. Chayis means yichos, any lineage. You don't look at the lineage at all. Aval goya, this lachayis, same alone. Maybe by goyim that have lineage, maybe if you had relations with a goya, maybe the child is considered your child. Yashmin goya mishum delo shaycha b'mitzvah, the shifcha the shaycha b'mitzvah same alone. And the other opposite, if only we say a pasuk about a goya, even if we find the pasuk, which basically we found the pasuk of pasations of yicha, but you still need the pasuk about each of yiladah, because maybe a goya doesn't have any mitzvahs, but a shifcha that has mitzvahs, what does it mean? Of course, the goya has also 7 mitzvahs, but it doesn't have the mitzvahs that a Jew has. But the shifcha, like Eved Kanani, does have all the mitzvahs lo saseh and the mitzvahs saseh shalos man groma, same malachas like a woman. So there is mitzvahs by a shifcha Kananis. So maybe over there's more reason that it should be considered Jewish. And if the man had relations with her, maybe the child is considered his child. Emalo, so therefore tzricha. So Rabbi is saying I need two psukim. To say a shifcha, to say that a goya, both of them, if you have relations with them, the child is not yours, the child is not Jewish. But the Rabbanan, they only have one pasuk for a shifcha. They have to look for a pasuk for a goya. How do you know? How do Rabbanan know that the children that he had from a goya is not considered his children? Rabbanan. That's the kasha the Gemara is talking to Rabbanan. You didn't have a pasuk. You need two psukim, one for a shifcha, one for a goya. Ashkan shifcha. You find the pasuk of a shifcha, like you say, each of you. So you see that the children of a shifcha are not considered yours. But how do you know that the children of a goya are not considered yours? You're saying another drasha, but we have to find that someplace. But okay, but you can't say and say like we just finished saying, you can't learn out from a shifcha because there's a tzrichas, like we just said. A shifcha doesn't have chayis, or maybe a goy does have chayis, does have yachas. So now we're ending up back to the question: how do you know that the child born of a goya is not considered your child? Bincha Yisrael is Kori Bincha, then Bincha Roman Agoya, Kori Bincha Elabina. So I have a chart for this one. Here it is. Maybe I'm not sure if it came up to everybody else. I'll take off the screen and put it on again.
Are we still looking for a pasuk for a goy?
Yeah, how do you know that the child of a Goya is not considered Jewish? So here goes the drasha. It says, don't marry your daughter to a Goy, because he's going to turn away your child from me. Hashem says, don't marry. Again? Because he's going to veer your child from me. Hashem says, don't marry. It says he, Yasir. Yasir is masculine. That's the whole Diyakar Gemara. It doesn't say Tosir. It says, so don't marry your daughter. I made this on the diagram, the fuzzy one, that's a guy. That's on the code. The code for this is a goy, and this is a goyish woman. This is a goy. It's a regular one that's Jewish, and the fuzzy one is the goy. So it says we talk to this man. Hashem says, "Don't marry your daughter to a goy, because he's going to take away your child." So the Gemara says, "What does it mean to take away your child?" That doesn't mean to take away your
from Yiddishkeit.
Yeah, which child? Which son? Which son?
So them together.
Again, don't marry your daughter to a goy, because Yasir has been chami. It could be the Pashpa is not like this, but the Gemara is not like this. Don't marry your daughter to a goy because he's going to veer your child from away from me.
So who's he?
So the Gemara says it means the child that's going to be born from them. So Kiyasi has bincha. Bincha means bencha, ben bincha. When it says because he's going to take away your child, it means your grandchild. So don't marry your daughter to a goy, because that goy, your son-in-law, is going to take away your grandchild from me. He's going to make him to be to that me. That's the pasuk says. But the Gemara says the opposite. But the Gemara says, but it doesn't say the opposite. The pasuk does not say, "Do not marry your son." This doesn't say. The right column it says it doesn't say this. It doesn't say, "Don't marry your son to a goyish woman because she will take away your grandson from me." Why doesn't it say that?
Oh, it doesn't say.
It doesn't say that. Why not?
Because you're not Jewish.
Because who's not Jewish?
Oh,
Who's not Jewish? Who's not
the
Jewish?
son,
The son, right? That's what the Gemara says. That's the Gemara. How do you know?
Because the mother is a goy.
How do you know? That's what the pasuk is telling you. It's only you're thinking it's a given. It's not a given. That's what we're looking for. The Gemara is saying the fact that it says this and it doesn't say this is a proof that it's not considered your son. So the pasuk doesn't have to tell you that case because it wouldn't be your son. Don't do it either. Don't marry your son to a goyish woman either for other reasons. But you can't say the reason is because you're going to take away your grandson because not your grandson, B'chlal.
He's already taken away once she married.
Okay, that's the Gemara's drush. So we'll see it in the Gemara. Okay. Because the guy is going to take away your grandson from me. Bincha Israel is called Bincha. The son born from a Jewish woman, which means your grandson born from your Jewish daughter is called your son because he's Jewish. But it doesn't say the other way. Without Rashi, I would have not been able to figure this out. Rashi says this in the Gemara, but it doesn't say the other way. It doesn't say kisasir. It doesn't say in the feminine that don't marry your son to a goyish woman because she is going to take away your son because it's not going to be considered your son. And bincha, it's not going to be called your son. If she,
and the son's
yeah. So the pasuk on that doesn't say take away your son because it's not going to be considered your son. So this is there's two drushes. The first drusha was Rabbi Yehuda that says Baseish Avicha, and that's how you know that it has to be somebody that has chalos kedushin to your father. And Chavi Krisis, we figured out that it is considered your daughter. And the abundance say this pasuk by Goy shows that the child born, the fact that it doesn't say it, the fact that it doesn't say the case of a Goyish woman, is because the child born from a Goyish woman is not Jewish. Amar Ravina, I think there's a side point. Shmamina ben bitcha b'amar Goy kari bincha. But agav, you do see that a child born from a Jewish daughter to a Goy is considered Jewish. Can we infer from this that Ravina holds that a guy who had or ever had relations with a Jewish girl, the son is going to be considered kosher and not a mamzer? The truth is, I don't understand this Gemara. I didn't have time to look into it. I don't understand what the Gemara is talking about because all we said is that it's considered Jewish. But now that it's Jewish, is it considered a mamzer or a kosher? That I don't know. And the Gemara seems to see that it's not a mamzer. The fact that he said that all I see in the pasuk is it's considered Jewish. Again, this pasuk that the Gemara said about Yasser's bincha over here,
right.
This is the pasuk it does say. So it says, you see, Ravina says on the side, it's true that you do see that the son of a Goyish woman is not Jewish, but you do see that the son born from a Jewish woman, even though the father is a Goy, is considered Jewish. And the Gemara says, oh, he's not a mamzer. Now, I don't see that he's not a mamzer. You see,
why would be a mamzer?
I don't see if he's a mamzer or not.
Yeah,
I don't see that
it's possible to call him a mamzer.
No, I don't see. Maybe he's a mamzer. I don't know. It just says that he's Jewish. Do you see here that he's not a mamzer? The Gemara says, I see here that he's not a mamzer. And the Gemara says, even though it's not a mamzer, but he's not kosher, he's puzzle, there's something in between. But I don't get it. I didn't look around, but I don't see what the Gemara sees that he's not a mamzer. Maybe he's a mamzer. What we're talking about is that he's Jewish. If it says, don't marry your daughter to a guy because he's going to take away your grandson from Judaism, so I see that he's Jewish. Do I see that he's a mamzer or not? I don't know. But the Gemara seems to see that he sees not a mamzer. And I don't understand the Gemara, but I didn't look into it too much. But maybe we'll find out. Maybe Mechavusa will help out. I don't know. But that's what the Gemara says. That does Ravina say that when a guy has relations with a Jewish woman, the vlad is a kosher, not a mamzer? The Gemara says you can't say that. You don't see that it's not kosher. That's kosher. Neither mamzer lo havi. You do see that's not a mamzer, right. But kosher nam lo havi pasul mikri. Maybe something in between. That's pasul tikkonim maybe. But I don't understand the Gemara at all. I don't see why you see. I don't see how you see it as not a mamzer. I didn't get it. So I'll leave it as a question. I don't know how the Gemara sees it's not a mamzer.
What is the word mikri at the end? Pasul mikri.
He's called. He's called nikra. He's called the pasul. Yeah.
I don't have to. So what's
Kiyasir ben Chamin. Rashi brings it down.
Is there a law?
It says don't marry. It says bitchalo sitein whatever. Is any because where's the Rashi? Rashi does. Here's Rashi. Bitcha lo sitein live bitcha lo sitein live no kiyasir has been chamin acharai. don't give your daughter to the son of the goy, to a goyish man, because he, the husband, is going to take away, your son-in-law is going to take away your grandson from me. That's how we're dashing the pasuk.
So is there a mandamar that says, I think Rabbi Kiva says that that if you're over a lav, the result is a mamzer in terms of.
But that's not our Gemara. Our Gemara is saying for the pasuk alone, you see that it's kosher. I don't see how you see the pasuk that it's kosher. I just see that it's Jewish. And what Ravina said, he just said that you see that it's called bincha. I see that as a Jewish. I don't see enough to see that it's kosher, not a mamzer. I don't get it. Okay, the Gemara continues a little bit more. Hi, Beshiva almost ksiv. Even if you have this pasuk, it only talks about the 7 nations. It's not talking about all the goyim. It just talks about the 7 nations. So how do you know that any goy? Because you proved that a child born from a non-Jewish woman, again, how do we prove it? We said, but bincha is not considered Jewish, it's considered her child. That was what we said, that the implication of the pasuk was that if your son will marry a non-Jewish woman, the son is going to be a goy. But that's not talking about any non-Jewish woman. It's talking about the 7 nations. Maybe maybe by the 7 nations only does it say that the son's not considered your son. How do you know that it has to do even with other goyim also? Any child born of a non-Jewish woman is considered a goy. The more answers, this pasuk is talking about anybody that is going to remove you. It's a reboy. That anything that's going to remove him from Judaism. But the Gemara says that's not so simple. The Gemara goes into a general machlokes. So what is Darash Time of the Kra? Rashi says the Darash Time of the Kra means that the pasuk doesn't say reason. The pasuk says a halacha. Can we on our own assume what the reason is and make ramifications? Since this is the reason, we figure out on our own what the reason probably is, and therefore we can make ramifications. So since this is the reason, it applies here, it doesn't apply over there. That's a machlokes. Rav Shimon says Darash Time of the Kra. It doesn't just mean you can darshan it just for the sake of darshaning. It means also there's ramifications. If this is the reason, so then sometimes it applies, sometimes it doesn't apply. Rav Shimon holds you can do that. Rabbanan say you can't do that. So according to Rav Shimon, the way Rashi makes the cheshbon over here, that according to Rav Shimon, if the pasuk would not have said the reason, it says has been because he's going to take you away from Judaism. Rav Shimon says I would have known that reason without the pasuk saying so. I would have known it on my own, because that's the reason. That's the reason we would figure out the reason why you should not marry your daughter to a non-Jewish man is because he's going to take your family out to Avodah Zarah. We would have figured it out on our own, and then we would have said maybe that it's only for the 7 nations. Rashi says because they were the ones who were the real over the Avodah Zarah. The rest of the nations they just had customs, but they weren't so religious. The 7 nations, they were the ones that were religious to Avodah Zarah. So if the pasuk would not have said anything, I would have said on my own it only applies to the 7 nations that are doing Avodah Zarah, and the rest of the nations I would have said is mutter. But the fact that the pasuk says the reason and didn't have to say the reason because I would have said it on my own. The Lumdus goes like built on what we would have done. If on our own we would have figured out this reason and the pasuk says so it's coming to be marba even more. So on our own, we would have said it only applies to the 7 nations. The fact that the pasuk says Ki Yasir is coming to say even more. But according to Rabbanan, I would not have said any reason. I would have said a blackened statement. That is also, I don't know why. So the pasuk has to say the reason, Ki Yasir, and the reason then it only applies to over the Avodah Zarah, maybe only to 7 Amin. So you wouldn't be justified to be able to learn out that this halacha applies to all going. Maybe according to Rabbanan, maybe it only applies to the 7 nations. So the Gemara says, you're right. The one we're looking for over here is only the opponent of Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Yehuda. Everybody has a pasuk. Everybody can say we have Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Yehuda's pasuk. The only one we're looking for is the one who happened to argue on Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Yehuda in yesterday's brisa, where I spoke about if a person has relations with his sister, who also happens to be his father's wife's daughter, is it considered chayiv 2 or 1? And that the Gemara didn't have a name. Tanu Rabbanan, Habal Achosav Yibasishta Eishazaviv Chayiv Mishum Achosav Mishum Bas Eishazaviv. Rabbi Yosef Yehuda had another said no, he's only chayiv 1. He has an extra pasuk, so it's only the Tanakama here that has the problem that he can't use the pasuk of Bas Eishazaviv. So we're saying that's Rabbi Shimon talking. And according to Rabbanan, all the ones who argue on Rabbi Shimon and don't Darash Tam of the Kra, they're going to pass like Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Yehuda that the pasuk of Bas Eishazaviv is extra, and they can learn out from there that a child born from a non-Jewish wife, Bas Goya, is not considered a child. It comes out according to everybody. The halacha is true. The only question is where you get the drasha from. The child born from a Goya or a Shifra. Everybody agrees. Everybody agrees that's a pasuk for a Shifra. The question is where you know the pasuk of a Goy. One darshans it from Bas Eishazavicha, that only somebody that your father can have a marriage with. And the Gemara is not talking about Anusa, it's not talking about Chayve Lavin, it's not talking about Chayve Krisos, it's talking about a Goya. And that's Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Shimon has another pasuk, the Gemara comes out. Is that Rabbi Shimon? I forget the Reb Shimon. Reb Shimon has another pasuk. He's going to learn out from this pasuk of Kiyasu as Bincha that only don't marry your daughter to a goy
Take away
because he's going to take away your
son.
no. Let's get the other way. Don't marry your don't marry your daughter to a goy because he's going to take away your grandson. But the fact the pasuk doesn't say it the other way. Don't marry your son to a goya because she will take away your grandson is because he's not going to be considered Jewish. And because of Dashian time of the Krov, we learn out that it's not only the 7 nations who are big over there, but there's other people, even other nations also, that it's that the son is going to be considered non-Jew.
That's a little bit like Yitzhak and Rivka sending Yaakov to away from the Canaan woman, the Philistine woman.
Mm-hmm.
Yitzhak told Yitzhak and Rivka said, don't marry these daughters.
Oh, yeah.
They're the daughters of Canaan.
Okay, but the Jewishness by Lavan also wasn't any more Jewish besides the Judaism.
Even though it
Okay.
wasn't formulated, it seems to be there was
Okay, I'm not sure. Okay. Just to point out, is a small thing that seems like in the Pshat is, I would think that that's a great drasha, but the Gemara is not happy with it. In the pasuk at the end of Ezra, it says over there that some people had married non-Jewish. Over there, the pasuk said that was a story, but in Ezra, when they came back, and over there it says that they sent away the women and their children. Isn't that a great pasuk?
Yeah, that's a good point.
I thought it'd be a great pasuk.
But it's not the derived.
So it's not, but you see, Megillah Milsa, you see, like that's what they did. It's not going to be the source, but you see the mice that they sent it away. But the Gemara doesn't even bring that down, and the Gemara brings these two drushes. And there's a matter someplace where somebody he was dashing that different than the halacha, and they came to give him malchus. He was like a bikorus a little bit, but he was like like a reform. He had his own drushes, and they said they're going to give him malchus. So I said, "Why are you giving malchus for?" That he said that he said the other way that it goes according to the father, doesn't go according to the mother. So he told him the pasuk that I said that Ezra it says over there, but the children they sent away the mothers and the children. So he said that's only the very ksuvim. It's not a pasuk. You can't give him malchus for that. So then he told him this drasha. He was happy. You can't give me malchus. I deserve it. so that's an interesting thing. I once was at a koso and somebody said, "Can I ask anybody a question here?" So I said, "I don't know, but okay, I'll try." So he asked this question: how do you know that it goes with the Jewish? So I figured he'd like. How do you know that the child born of a goya is not Jewish? So I didn't go with the pasuk says bin. He's not going to go for that. This fancy drasha we just did. I told him the pasuk in Ezra. He was happy that it says they sent away the women with the children. It's fair, so he was happy with that. Okay, I got it. Like he was questioning the whole halacha. So I told him the pasuk says openly that they send away the non-Jewish women and their children. Don't you see that they're not Jewish? He was happy. The Medrash is not happy with that. You need a pasuk in the Torah, but he was happy with that.
When Avram sent away Hagar,
he was Jewish. Yeah, he wanted to know like where do you get it from? Where do you get this halacha from? But I think if anybody asks the question, he doesn't have to have a pasuk in the Torah. He just wants to know. I think it's a great pasuk to have offhand. If someone wants to know what's the source that they're not considered Jewish if they have non-Jewish mother.
when Avram sent Hagar, what did it say? Her son or
By where?
When Avram sent away Hagar with Ishmael,
I have to
what does it say? His son or her son? Curious. It says, I think it says
You would think of such an
Allah knows we know.
you would think of such an important thing about the
Benan,
Jewish
right?
mother would
Yeah.
say mamish in the Torah exactly.
Right, exactly. Openly, so it doesn't. Right. It says these two drushes over here, and also the pasuk in Ezra, which is like a story. But I think the story shows very much that for sure that was like tradition. That was for sure. But how do you know it from? Okay. Next.
Again, it's such an important thing.
Yeah. Next Mishnah. Amud Beis. Misha Kiddush Achas Mishtei Achayos Venya there is a man Kiddush. A person married one of two sisters, but he doesn't know which one. Again, he married one of two sisters, but he doesn't know which one. So what would you say?
The twins.
Whatever the case is, however it happened, that's the kasha of mice. How did it happen? But he married one or two sisters and he doesn't know which one. So what would you say?
He's also to both of them.
Why just to both of them?
Doesn't know who's the
Because he does know,
So take one of them.
right?
You're right. So you can't take either one. So what does he do? No sin getlos ever getlos. He has to give a get to both of them, and he can't marry any one of them anymore. He has to look someplace else because one of these is going to be a chosishta. One of them is his wife, but one of them is his wife's sister. He doesn't know which one. So he has to get rid of both of them. How about meis below achachad? What if he died?
Excuse me, Rebbe, in that first case, why couldn't he give them both a get and then he can marry one of them?
Anybody have an answer to that question? Why can't he give both a get and marry one of them?
Because he might be marrying the host.
Because wife's sister is also even after a get. A wife's sister is
Oh,
even
the
after
wife's-
a get.
sister, of course.
Okay, so that's the answer. Here, the diagram, what if he died? These the green ones means one of them is married. He married this man on the diagram. He married one of these two, married only one of them. He doesn't know which one. So we said he has to give both of them again. But he didn't, then he died. Now what does the brother do? The brother is the Chalitza. Why not Yibum? Because one of them, not Tzara, no Tzara here. There's no Tzara. They're not co-wives. Only one of them is married.
Oh, it's not a co-wife.
Not a co-wife. It's a sister. Achos Kukasa. One of them is Kukasa. The real wife is as a Kuka. She's not a wife. He didn't marry her, but she's as Kuka. She's obligated to Yibum. Yeah. We don't know which one, but one of them is, and the other one is a sister. So he doesn't know which ones. He can't take any one of them. So what does he do? Chalitza to both of them. Yeah. I'll leave on the diagram, maybe do the Mishnah, and as we go along. He has to give chalitza to both of them. Next case, he has two brothers. Same case. One man that married one of two sisters, he doesn't know which one, and he has two brothers. What do you say? So the diagram shows you red.
Chalitza.
Chalitza what?
Like we just.
So here it says no.
Here chalitza to both of them.
So here it says that's what we would think. So the Mishnah says there's eight over here that one of the brothers could give chalitza to one of them, and the other brother could do yibum to the other, could marry the other one. Why should that be? Because even though it might be achos kukaso, but the zika is broken. Let's say she was the real wife. Once she got chalitza, so then she's not. It's finished. She's not called achos kukaso anymore. If she was the real wife, says fine. He's doing yibum. If she was the real wife, so then she got chalitza. The real wife got chalitza, and now she's not called achos kukaso anymore because the chalitza took off the zika. The chalitza removed the zika.
If she married the one that's not the real wife.
Again,
if he did yibum to the one that's not chalitza to the one that's not the real wife.
So she is the real wife. So then everything's fine. Then he mamish did you. That's a good thing. He did yibum. That's fine. This was all a mistake.
And if that's not the real wife, then it's a regular marriage.
Again, which one? If the left one?
No, the right.
If the right one was the.
Let's say she wasn't.
So she was the real one.
Right.
So he wasn't allowed to marry her because she's a chos kukaso.
Right.
But once one of them did chalitza, the other one could marry.
He does the chalitza first.
Right. And that's what the Mishnah says. That is the Mishnah. And that's permissible. What if they didn't ask any questions and Kad Muva Kansu, both of them did Yibum? They shouldn't have. The first one that did Yibum shouldn't have done it because maybe he's marrying a Chos Kukasa. But even though he did wrong, once the other one is going to marry, he shouldn't have. But once they marry, then the Zika is off of the real one is taken care of already. So it's not called a Chos Kukasa anymore.
It's a Kotlam Afreya, but it could be that it was in the wrong order.
Right, they did wrong. But even though they did wrong, but now it's already rectified. When he married her first, he did Yibum. Let's say both these are Yibum. If he wanted the Yibum, so the first one that did Yibum, you might be marrying a Chos Kukasa. Maybe this is the real wife, the real widow. And this one is not allowed to marry because it's a Chos Kukasa. But once the other one did Yibum already, so then she's taken care of already. So then she's not Skukah him anymore. So then they both have. So they shouldn't have, but once they did it, they can keep.
But if the chalitza was not to the real wife, so it's not chal.
If there wasn't, so then she's the real wife. Then everything's fine. If she was not the real wife, she was the real wife. So then everything's fine that he married her, and he could marry her. Like no problem. I mean, if she was the real wife, then she was the skukah. He wasn't supposed to marry her. But now he married her already. But the other one also took care of her already. She's not a chos kukos anymore. Once both of them marry. So then the zika, I'm saying, the lachatchila we tell him, you do chalitza, then the other one can do yibum. Right. But if he didn't listen, he did yibum first. He shouldn't have. Maybe it's a chos kukasa. But once the other brother also does yibum, so then the zika is taken off. She's not a chos kukasa anymore. To this one, each one is not a chos kukasa because the zikuka is taken care of. The zika is taken care of either chalitza or yibum. Yes, please.
What is it for chos zukaka? Someone who marries them, is that a law or is that the correct?
It might be drabanan. No, it might be drabanan. A chos kukasa might be drabanan. At most, it's going to be the rice. I don't remember, but it's not going to be chorus or anything like that. It's not a chos ishtam.
Oh, it can be the rice and not chorus.
Yeah. I don't remember if it's the rice or drabanan. Then I forgot.
And that's why it could be after the fact. Like he could do
And then
that
the
first.
zika goes off. There's no zika, so then it's not considered like a chos ishta that stays forever. It's a chos kukosa. The zika goes off either by chalitza or yibum, and then the other one is then you'd be allowed to marry the sister.
No, I didn't mean that it stays forever, but the thing is, like, if the guy who did wrong first, then he
Yes.
is living in an avera.
No, because once the zika is broken, then it's not anymore an avera. Even though he in the beginning was an avera, when he first did yibum, maybe it's a chos kukosa, but once the brother takes care of the sister, so there's no more zika anymore. So it's not a chos kukosa anymore.
Okay.
Because the yevama is taken care of, the widow's taken care of. She got yibum to another brother, so the other brother could marry her. I should have made an akdama first, that if there's a yevama and there are two brothers, nobody's allowed to marry. She has zika to everybody, but once one of them did yibum or chalitza, then the other ones are allowed to marry the sisters. It doesn't become that she's a kuka forever, she has kuka forever. Once the zika is taken care of, either because of chalitza or yibum, so then the brothers would be allowed to marry. You're not allowed to marry a chos chalitza, but you can marry the sister of another brother. One brother did chalitza, the other brother can marry the sister.
I have a problem if that the brother who does chalitza on one of the sisters and she's not the real wife, and say the other brother did not marry the real wife, so she never gets taken care of.
Again, you can't say both of them are not the real wife. One of them is the real wife. You just said a case that both of them are not the real wife. One of them is the real wife.
I'm saying that by
He did chalitza.
No, he did chalitza.
He did chalitza to one of them.
Who is not the real one.
We don't know.
Let's just say she's not the
Okay,
real
so
one.
she's the real one.
She's the real wife.
Okay.
What happens if nobody marries her?
No. You have to take care of her. You have to either give a chalitza or yibum.
You have to
So
give
it's-
either, it has to be one of the
Yeah,
other.
the chiddush is that you could even do yibum. Once one brother does chalitza to one, the other one could even do yibum to the
But
other
you
one.
can't just leave that extra wife. because you don't know
No.
whether
Yes,
she's-
for sure,
has to
for
be
sure,
taken care of.
for sure. In every case we're going to talk about, since you don't know who he married, so you have to take care of both of them.
You have to-
But if it's only one brother, then he has to give chalitza to both of them. If there are two brothers, so then one of them can marry one of them. The next case, let's get to set up over here. If it helps any visual later, I don't know if it helps. But these are the two women, and these are the ones that married. Here's going to be a case is, till now we spoke about the one person who married. Till now we spoke about one person who made a mistake. He married one of two sisters.
Those are sisters we're talking about in the third diagram.
Yeah,
In the new diagram, it's sisters.
Yeah, they're all sisters. Yeah, here see the sisters. The sisters, they have a hyphen in between them. These are two sisters. He married one of them. He doesn't know which one, but he also married the other one. He doesn't know which one. Two men married two women that are sisters, but they don't know which one.
So everybody gives chalitza goodbye.
So first about nobody died yet.
Nobody dies. You give gifts.
So each one has to give two gittin.
Ah.
It's a double case. It's a double case of the first case we have. Yeah, it's the same thing over twice. A mirror image. That both of them have to give two gittin. The Mishnah says, "Shnam shekitzu shtei achaya zayin yodeh ez kiddush v'zayin yodeh ez kiddush zenos shnei gittin v'zenos shnei gittin." So far, everybody said right. Each one has to give two gittin, and then they go they marry somebody else. How about if they died?
The two brothers are.
They're right. The ones who not the right. The one who married, the Suffolk marriage, the red ones. The red ones are the ones that married. Another case. I should have made an X over here. They died. So what do they do now?
Each one has to give two chalitzas.
Each one has one brother.
Each brother has to give a chalitza to both. Each one has to give two chalitzas.
Right. It's a double case of before. The same thing as before, just happening two times. So each one, he has to give chalitza to both of them. He has to give chalitza to both of them. I'll just read it inside. Perfect. What about if one of them has two brothers? One of them has one brother. It's also, this is just applying what we know already before. The one that has one brother,
That's an easy one.
He has to give two chalitzas.
and the one that has two brothers.
So
One gives chalitza, and the other one can marry either one.
Right. The Mishnah inside. Beautiful. And what both of them did yibum? They shouldn't have, but they did. If they marry, so then they can stay because the zika is broken. Next case, each one of them has two brothers.
So we have a double marriage.
What do you do?
Chalitza and a yibum for each one.
That
No, there can't be yibum for each one because there's too many. You can't have two men married to the same woman.
no, we didn't mean that. But both of them could get married. Means from each husband, from each of these husbands. So let's say in this over here, on the bottom left over here. So one brother will give chalitza to one of them and marry the other brother. What?
The other one will marry.
The other will marry. The other one.
The other one. No, because on the
The
other
other one,
side,
right, the other one, right, okay, and then that's.
On the other side, you have to.
Okay.
But
have to coordinate.
don't do that before the other one also gives chalitza to
the second one.
the other one.
So you have to coordinate. The two men, the four brothers have to coordinate them.
Right.
Those are
After-
brothers, this guy, men are always brothers.
The ones in the red are the ones who, there are four different cases. One, two, each one is the red one, the ones who made the marriages and they forgot who they married.
Okay.
And the blue ones are the innocent brothers. But then after this one, after he had this mistake, he died. And then the question is about the Yibam over here. So what does the Mishnah say? If each one has two brothers, means one brother of each gives chalitza to one of them.
Right.
Let's say he'll give chalitza to this one, and he'll give chalitza to this one, and then and then each one, the other brother, the remaining brother, will do yibum to the other one.
Or yibum or marriage.
Yibum is marriage.
Okay.
If you want to do chalitza, they could do chalitza. We're trying to say, we want to say it's possible to get married. You can get a marriage going. You can get a yibum going.
Yeah, that's good.
And again, kadmu shnayim v'cholzu. Now, kadmu shnayim v'cholzu. On the same side,
Oh,
on the same side, both of them gave chalitza. One gave chalitza to one gave chalitza to the other one. So could the other ones do, okay, we'll do the yibums? We do say one from each side should do chalitza, and one from each side should do yibum. That's what we said. But they said, okay, two gave chalitza from the same side. Can the other two say, okay, so we'll do the yibums? No, it does not do each other,
Right.
because the problem is still there. That maybe kadmu shnayim v'cholzu lo yibu shnayim. Lechat cholas v'echad miyabim. It still has to be on the other side. It's left to do one chalitza and one yibum. Kadmu v'kazeh mitzim yadam. And if they married, like we said, if they did marry, even though there was avera within the beginning, it might have been a chos kukasa. But once the other one married, so then the zika goes off, and then they could stay married. That's the Mishnah. Okay, we did the Mishnah without seeing it on the screen, but there it was. Okay, the Gemara continues. The Gemara is a problem with the whole thing. How could you have two sisters that you don't know which one you're married? If you don't know which one you're married, so you can't have relations with her because you don't know. And there's a concept called kedushin shein b'suron lebiyah. You gave a ring, you gave kedushin, you gave the money for kedushin in a way that there's no way that you could have relations. So it's not, the question is, that's considered kedushin or not. So here, if he married one of them but doesn't know which one, so he can't possibly have relations with her because achos ishto. So how is that a good kedushin even? It shouldn't even be a good kedushin. Shram minah kedushin shein b'suron lebiyah have a kedushin. There's a concept that some hold not, that a kedushin that you can't possibly have relations. If you could have relations, then it's a kedushin even before you have relations. But if it's not possible to have relations, then it shouldn't be a good kedushin even.
It's blemished.
It's not roy for Rashi here says she'ain sopan lovely day beer, that the kedushin cannot bring to a consummation. It can't be consummated.
Maybe they were blind or almost blind. They couldn't tell.
what about?
I'm not saying if they're liable, not liable, that they're
Blind.
I'm not saying if they're blind, if they're excusable or not. That's not the point. The point is that he can't possibly have relations with her because he married one of two sisters. He doesn't know which one, so it can't come to beer. So it shouldn't be a good kedushin even. So you don't have to give a get.
But why? I thought we have Bia Star Kesef.
Yes, but even kesef has to be roy lovely day beer. The purpose of marriage, the purpose of giving the money is in order to be able to have relations at the end. If it can't come to relations, then it could be that it's not even a kedushin, doesn't need a get. It's a nothing maybe. That's the Gemara's question.
Oh.
Why did the kedushin with Leah even work? Because he thought he was married Bachel.
That's a good question, but it doesn't have to do with this, right?
Right.
That's another question. That he thought that kedushin told us he married the wrong woman. So that's a question, but not the Gemara. The Gemara says, "It's not a kasha. You don't have the right from us. It could be that he did know when he did the marriage, he knew he's giving it to. But then they got mixed up. Then he doesn't know who's who. But if at the time he didn't know who's who, then it could be it's not taken out of kedusha. You don't need to get. It's not even a marriage. It's also mashma like that because it doesn't say that it wasn't known. If it wasn't known, it wasn't known to anybody. So then it wouldn't be a good kedusha. But it says he doesn't know. He doesn't know means now he doesn't know. But once upon a time it was known. So that's the reason why it's a good kedusha. The Moshe Kasha, it's a very beautiful Mishnah, but everything's simple. We did it by ourselves, like just the calculations. What the Mishnah, what Chiddush did the Mishnah tell us? It's just a case, and everything is known already. We know that the man cannot marry two sisters, and he has to say won't be able to marry any one of them. So everything else is just a nice cheshbon. Ma'akim Ashmalan, what's Chiddush of all the whole Mishnah? Sefer Tzrichle, there's a Chiddush. It says, Meis v'lo achechad, choletz l'shteihen. If there's one brother, then he gives chalitza to both of them. If he has two brothers, hayu lo shnayim, echad choletz v'echad miyavim. So the Mishnah, so he says here, Dafka Michletz Vada Yebume. Aval Yebume Beresha Lo the Kapoga Ba'Chosikukaso. These two brothers that he has, that we say one should do Yibum, one should do Chalitza. The Chalitza has to be first. But if the Yibum is first, he can't because it might be a Chosikukasa. The only 8 sits to do. One should get Chalitza and get rid of the Zika, and then the other one could marry because it's not anymore a Chosikukasa. Then it says two people, the whole complicated case that two people, each one married one of the sisters, you don't know who it is. First thing, well, the same thing over again. If it's the same thing as the Gemara said before, that it wasn't possible to ever to come to consummation, so it shouldn't be considered kedushin even. So from the same Torah says before that at the time of the marriage they do know each one knew who he's marrying. Then later on it got mixed up, so the kedushin wasn't kedushin, and now there's a complication, so they have to give a divorce to both of them. They cannot, both of them have to give a divorce to both of them. They cannot be tani ben yodeh, same as before. The fact that it says it's not no, he doesn't know. It doesn't say it's not known. Means that once upon a time it was known. Then it got mixed up. That's why there's a kedushin, and then they have to give a get because they don't know who to marry. What's the chiddush over here? That in these complicated cases, Sefer Tzrichle, there is a chiddush in the Sefer. It says Meisu lazeh echad v'lazeh shnayim. We had a case where one had one brother, one had two brothers. So we said Ayachad choles shtayim. The one has only a single brother. He has to give chalitza to both of them. Shnayim echad choles v'echad miyabim. So that's the chiddush. The one says what's the chiddush? Pshita hainu reisha. That's same. We know that from the reisha already. There's no more chiddush in this case. Ma'aretemo ligzat trei atuchad. Kamash Milan. You might think that the two should not do Yibum. We said the two, one could do Yibum. You might come to mistake and think that the one also could do Yibum because on the other side they let him do Yibum, so let me do Yibum. And he doesn't know that over there are two brothers, so one can give Chalitza, but he is only one brother, so he can't. He has to give Chalitza to both of them. The Dafka Michlas Vada Yevumi, in this case where we have that there's one has one brother, one has two brothers, so the one who gives Chalitza has to do it first. The two brothers that we say, one do Chalitza, one do Yibum, there's also a question, maybe she's the other one's Yevama. So first you have to free her. So the one brother that's left has to give Chalitza to both of them, and then you could do on this side, you could do Yibum on the other side. I didn't see the next part, but I think it's only two more lines. What do you have to have the last case of two brothers and two brothers? What's the chiddush over here?
Since the second foreignest brother is making the yibum.
One brother from each side is going to do chalitza, and then one brother from each side is going to do yibum. You might think what?
That the one who does chalitza will jump the gun, he'll make yibum first.
The
One
side
will jump the gun, he'll make yibum before the chalitza.
Rashi says over here, if they're going to do yibum without doing the chalitza.
Do you skip the middle point?
You have to first make sure that I get chalitza from each side, and then you can do yibum on the other side.
Like then there's no skukim?
Yeah, once you do chalitza, then you broke the zika. Okay, more or less. Yashikach, everybody. Thank you. Yashikach.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
So tomorrow.
Oh, so tomorrow, if it's possible.